Most people think prisons are just government buildings, places where criminals are sent, guarded, and forgotten. We're taught to see them as a function of the state, a necessary, albeit grim, part of maintaining law and order. But what if I told you that in some parts of the world, prisons are actually multi-million-dollar businesses? And the most unsettling part? The more inmates they have, the more money they make. We aren't talking about a state-run facility funded by your taxes to house offenders. We are talking about the corporate privatization of justice. We are talking about companies that trade on the stock market, report quarterly earnings to shareholders, and lobby for longer sentences. Welcome to the economics of owning a prison. Today, we're going behind the walls to pull back the curtain on a system where human beings are treated as line items on a balance sheet. The origin of the business model. To understand how we got here, we have to look back at the early 1980s. The war on drugs was in full swing, and the prison population in the United States was exploding. The government was desperate. They didn't have the space. They didn't have the funding to build fast enough, and they were facing massive political pressure to get tough on crime. Enter the private sector. The promise was simple. We can do it faster, we can do it cheaper, and we can take this burden off the taxpayer. It sounded like a dream for cash-strapped state governments, but it created an entirely new market. Suddenly, a prison wasn't just a place for detention. It was a real estate development opportunity. Companies began buying land, building facilities, and pitching the government on a new service, incarceration as a service. But unlike a factory that makes shoes or electronics, the customer in this business model is the government, and the product being processed is the prisoner. This transition changed the fundamental goal of the justice system from rehabilitation or punishment to something much colder. Throughput, the mechanics of profit. Let's talk about the math. If you're a private prison operator, you don't make money by lowering crime. You make money by filling beds. Most of these contracts are structured as a per diem rate, a daily fee paid by the government for every inmate you hold. If a facility has 1,000 beds and the government pays $60 per inmate per day, that's $60,000 in revenue every single day, regardless of what's happening on the outside. But the real secret sauce isn't just the per diem. It's what's known as the occupancy guarantee. Many of these contracts actually force the state to guarantee a certain level of occupancy, often 90% or higher. Think about how absurd that is. If the crime rate drops and the prison population decreases, the state is still legally obligated to pay for those empty beds. The taxpayers are effectively paying a penalty for not having enough criminals to fill the facility. It is perhaps one of the only industries in the world where the government guarantees that your factory will stay at near full capacity, cutting costs to scale. Once you have that guaranteed revenue, the business game shifts to one thing: operational efficiency. This is where the no-fluff business reality hits hard. When your revenue is fixed per person, every single dollar you spend on that person is a dollar taken out of your profit margin. This is why private prisons are famous for high-frequency cost-cutting. They minimize staff-to-inmate ratios. They replace experienced, unionized guards with cheaper, less trained staff. They reduce the quality of the food. They cut back on rehabilitation programs, education, and medical services. If you can save just $1 per inmate per day across a network of 20,000 inmates, that is an extra $7.3 million in pure profit every year. It's a relentless game of optimization. You aren't managing a facility. You are managing a logistics chain where the goal is to provide the absolute bare minimum service required by the contract to avoid lawsuits, while keeping the rest as margin, the hidden revenue streams. But the business model goes much deeper than just the per diem. The really smart operators treat the prison as a captive ecosystem. Think about it. If you're an inmate, you are not a free consumer. You can't choose to shop elsewhere. You are forced to use the services provided by the facility. This creates a captive market for high-margin goods and services. Take telecommunications. Companies have been known to sign exclusive contracts to provide phone services for inmates, charging families exorbitant rates for a simple phone call. Then there's the commissary. From hygiene products to snacks, the markups inside a prison commissary would make a luxury retailer blush. You are selling essential items to people who have no other option. And then, there is the most controversial pillar: labor. Many private prisons integrate inmate labor into their operations or lease that labor to other companies. In some systems, inmates are paid pennies an hour to package goods, manufacture equipment, or work on facility maintenance. This isn't just about reducing operational costs. It's about creating a secondary profit center out of the inmate population itself. The moral hazard. This brings us to the core issue: the moral hazard. When you tie the profitability of a corporation to the size of the prison population, you create a fundamental misalignment of incentives. A business is supposed to try to grow its customer base. A company that sells toothpaste wants everyone to use their product. But when that company is a prison operator, growing the customer base means more people behind bars. This has led to lobbying efforts to keep mandatory minimum sentences in place, to keep certain laws on the books, and to resist reforms that might lead to earlier releases. You have shareholders and executives whose fiduciary duty is to maximize profit. If one of the best ways to maximize profit is to ensure there is a constant supply of inmates, then by definition, they have an economic incentive to advocate for policies that result in more incarceration. That is the definition of a perverse incentive. So what is the reality? Is this a sustainable model? The industry is currently facing a reckoning. Public backlash, legal challenges, and shifting political winds have made the business of private prisons increasingly risky. We are seeing some states terminate these contracts, and the reputational cost of operating these facilities has become a significant liability for institutional investors. But the lesson here isn't just about prisons. It's about how easily we can turn human problems into financial assets if we aren't careful. It's a reminder that when you prioritize efficiency and profit over human impact, you're bound to create systems that don't just solve problems, they perpetuate them. Next time you look at a building or a policy or an industry, ask yourself, what is the actual incentive here? Who makes money when things stay the same? And more importantly, who loses? The economics of a prison show us exactly what happens when you turn justice into a business. And the truth is, the cost might be much higher than any of us can afford.